Hi guys, welcome to the next installment of Shanty Shop Mechanic. In this week's episode, I'm going to be going into this crashed go-kart that I bought about 4 or 5 months ago, and I've done nothing with it, only than tension the chain on it. So join me as I see if I can get this thing back on the road. I know it has a few cracks in the frame, so I need to get that resolved and see if I can get this thing turning and burning. I'm aware that the lighting isn't all that great in the shed. This is just the introductory of this machine. I'm going to be dragging it right out and getting back on the table, but I want to be able to go through quickly as to what the issues are around this machine. So, other than it having an engine that was made in 1929, there's a few issues at the front of it, mainly a few little bodge jobs for the brakes, which do actually engage, and then the accelerator, which is not actually engaged at all. If you see, I was referring to the bent frame. When I turn the steering wheel this way, it raises this wheel off the ground. By about 3 fingers, so not exactly conducive to a high grip demand. I need to be able to straighten out one of these wheels. I think it's to do with the actual spindle of the wheel. I believe this go-kart was involved in some sort of bump that this thing couldn't iron out, and I just went over completely on that side. What makes me believe that is you can see part of the rim has been chipped off. It still thankfully holds air, however the rear wheel it doesn't. It's the only tyre on this go-kart that when I pumped it up about 2 or 3 months ago it didn't hold air, but there's actually no damage to the rim. I'm not quite sure, but going beyond the flat tyre, we go over here, and as you can see, this bump, I believe, had so much of an effect on it that it actually broke the frame here. You can actually see the support that holds the seat in place has broken off from the frame, and judging by the wells that you can see there, I think this has been done a number of times, but just not done well enough to hold it in place. And ultimately, the fiberglass seat is just completely cracked. I don't know if I can repair the seat, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. What I really need to do now is get it out and get it welded up, and then I can go into the mechanicals of the brakes and the accelerator. And I do know the engine has compression, so should be fine. I mentioned the Briggs & Stratton engine before. The reason why I brought it up a few times is I don't really think this is the original engine given its age. It looks about 40 years of age, and I've worked on a few of them before, and I don't think the frame is really that old. So I personally believe it was just put on to get by, and I think originally this probably would have had a 2-stroke on it. Okay, so time to get this thing down to the welding man, because unfortunately I can't do everything myself yet. Whoop. Oh. Apparently too wide to go through the stable doors. Come on, don't fight me. Oh boy. Ooh. Woo. Almost there. Oh my god. Almost there. Oh, I gotta stop being so fat. Oh, come off it. Just let me catch my breath for 1 minute. And that's why you buy a single cab. Okay guys, a few days have gone by, and with one questionable haircut later, I've gotten the go-kart back from the welder. Yeah, the frame is in a lot better condition now due to that welding. As you can see, your man has done an extensive job with bracing the frame. You can remember the support here for the chair. It wasn't even connected to the frame. It was just flopping back and forth. So what he's done is he's gotten a steel plate and he's welded it to the frame where the axle goes and onto the actual support itself here. So there's no movement out of it altogether. And I'm kind of eating my own words what I said before about having to replace this chair, or this chair not having much of a life, but it seems to be a lot better now. Ooh. Of course, some miscellaneous welding as well, where there were some hairline cracks, which is here and here. But all the boring bits discussed, it's time to see if I can actually get this thing to run. I don't know if you can see, but there is a bit of binding with the chain on the clutch. When I turn it around, you can kind of hear it. And that's because where the clutch is at a different angle to where the sprocket is on the drive shaft. So this needs to be come out a little bit further. Now, hopefully I can actually get this thing to move over. You can see there's a few little dents along the edge here. You can see. So I don't know if somebody's actually tried to do this already and has given up. Come on. Might have to put the camera down and try and crack this thing loose. A little bit of brute force, and now it seems to be coming out. There we go. Loosening up quite nicely. Just do it on the other side too. And then I'll get the rubber mallet and try and send it over closer to the tire. See if I can walk this over. Okay. Yeah. You can see it moving all over already. There's a little mark here on the drive shaft where the surface rust is, and where there's a little hidden, like clean mark there. So it has actually moved over. Okay. Still a little bit loud, but I think that might be to do with the fact that the chain is quite tight on the clutch as well. Okay, time to see if this thing's going to pop off or not. I've been stalling it long enough now. Going into the fuel tank here. I'll pop that off. There's an interesting foam or sponge like thing that takes up the shape of the tank. And what that's meant to do is to stop the petrol from sloshing around as you're taking high corners or going over bumps and stuff like that. The lighting isn't great, but we have the run and the choke position here, and then we have the throttle, which is quite important for this cable here because it's not connected up yet. As always, remember, if you're going to be doing this yourself and you don't know the machine, make sure the drive wheels are off the table or off the ground. If the engine does decide to spin really fast or rev up, that it's not going to go through your shed door. Try and bring the throttle down maybe. See what it does off choke. No bueno. Try with this other spark plug and see if it does actually have spark. Okay, cool, it has spark. Quickly popped out the air filter of this Briggs, and it is very damp. It doesn't help with airflow through it at all, and you can see there's a few little spider nurseries in it too. Time to dump this, put a dry one in, and at least a clean one too, and see if it'll turn over again. Take 72 getting this engine to pop off. Ooh. Definitely a fuel issue. Poured some petrol down the intake, so let's see if she pops off. Oh. Okay. Come on. Oh, almost there. Filled it up again. Let's go. I'll put out a half choke now. Come on. Just prime it up. Buggery boo. So I'm going to remove the air filter cover and pour some petrol into it while it's running, and hopefully by doing that it'll actually prime up the little diaphragm that's in this carb to pump up the petrol into it. Pouring a wee bit of petrol in. Oh, okay. I'll keep that open. There, ready to go. It's on choke. Okay, open it up because I probably flooded it. Okay, come on. Oh dear, I flooded it immediately. Too much, Paddy. Okay, there might be an issue with the fuel that's in the tank, or the actual diaphragm in the carb is gone bad and it's not pumping up the petrol from the fuel tank. I made a little bit of a discovery with the throttle in the fact that it's not actually connected to anything. I can show you. This little bit here is the actual throttle itself, and as you can see, it is not connected to anything. It just is in limbo, and this is where the throttle actually is here. This little arm, and it moves up and down if I can get it to. There you go. What will need to be done is I'll need to get a new cable for this because it's far too stiff. The cable is meant to flow freely through this black sheath that's across it, and it goes in right into here, and it should be able to meet up with that. The cable is meant to go in and is meant to attach to that little arm that I described there in the previous clip. There should be a spring that goes across this cable as well, so it goes in between that little arm and the backstop here. That prevents it from sticking into wide open throttles. Another few days have gone by, however, in those days I've attached a brand new cable onto it, and I've drained out the fuel too. Made some makeshift return spring as well. Yeah, I can smell the petrol already. Okay, I'll just open the choke just slightly. Okay, close it now. Yeah. Come on. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of throttle on it. Take 45. It definitely has a fuel issue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn out the idle fuel mixture and see if I can throw more petrol into it, and hopefully that solves the issue. Back on choke. Still not enjoying it. so triumphant until it wasn't. Woo! After a few more turns of that fuel air mixture screw, I got it to run quite well now. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here and drain the oil as I've just gotten the engine running. Okay, I jump the gun here. Let's see what the condition of the oil looks like. Oh, okay. Not as black as I thought it was going to be. It's very, I don't know, it's kind of a greyish colour. Could have been a bit of water mixed into the oil, but I don't know. I'm trying to believe that it's not shards of metal, but I mean, this is an old Briggs, so they can pretty much run on their own steel. Oh, here we go. We got some shavings here. You can see them running down on the outer bit there. Okay, we're just going to ignore that. I'm going to put this down now, and I'm going to clean this up and put some new oil in it. Here comes the fun part now, where I try to fit into this machine. Despite me owning it for about 4 or 5 months at this stage and me working on it, I actually haven't sat in it yet. Hopefully it actually does fit me. Probably not the best idea to be doing this on a table, but it's the best way to show you. Okay, I'm already... That's not great. Just need to get in. Okay. Okay. Definitely the seat was molded to Kimi Räikkönen because it is not very good for me. Note to self, don't have wide boots on for this. Alright. Okay, it's not terrible. Would like it to have a little bit more room. This definitely needs to go. Next clip, I hope you'll be seeing me going down the road in this thing. Come on, Paddy. Now, why did I not think that this wasn't going to happen? Okay, Paddy, positive thoughts. Positive thoughts. Try to give the illusion that you didn't have a tantrum off camera. Just have to do a few little minor modifications in order to get the recoil off, but it's all good now. Okay guys, it's been a week since I've fitted the new recoil on, and as you can see I actually have it back on the operating table. And the reason that is because it is very difficult to keep this thing running without having it on full throttle, which makes me lead to believe that it is the diaphragm that needs to be replaced. And I actually have one here. I dug around and found it. And if you can see, it looks quite tarnished, or the packaging looks quite tarnished, and that's because I've had this for over 4 years, thinking it was a different part for another Briggs, and I just held on to it. So yeah, good little lesson there, not to throw away something you've bought, especially something you've bought. I'm going to go over this quite briefly. The little diaphragm that I was talking about, this is it here, and it lives right in there. You can see where the bolt pattern is. It matches the holes on the diaphragm. So in order to get to that, I have to remove the exhaust pipe, which is those two 13mm bolts, and then it's a flathead screwdriver all around crisscross holding that diaphragm into place. And I just, as a word of warning, I tell anybody who's going to be doing this, it doesn't really matter if you're going to be removing an exhaust on another Honda or Briggs or whatever, but these bolts like to snap, and especially in the actual casting of the engine, and they can be almost a pain or not even worth taking out. Take your time, loosen, tighten ever so gently and work them out. I'm going to put the camera down and I'm going to try and get this exhaust off so I can show you exactly where the diaphragm is. I'm going to remove the retainers for the bolts. It's just a little bit of metal. I folded over the bolt to stop it from loosening under vibration. It should be thin enough for me just to whack with my palm. Yeah, in one go it's off the bolt. I'm just going to flatten it better and do the same for the next one. Oh, so it's not a 13mm. Back in a minute. Correct socket found. I'm going to try and loosen this. Okay, a lot of resistance, but it's freeing up. If you find a lot of tension with the bolts, don't go further, or don't try and loosen it anymore. Flip it and go like this and then work its way out. But thankfully this one seems to be pretty good. Very good. Excellent. And there's another bolt here holding the exhaust bracket on. Excellent. Put the hardware there. Ooh, come down. And I'll just walk the exhaust out. And excellent. Exhaust now removed. Time to pry this off. Try and find a corner that you can get a little bit of leverage on. The screwdriver might be a little bit too thick for that. Oh God, did not know that was going to happen. So rule number one, if you don't know what's behind anything in an engine or anything like that, it could be spring loaded, which this was, and I was very lucky to find this spring. So when you're going at something, do a little bit of research on it. Just be prepared. That's all I'm saying. Not going to tighten it all the way down. I want to put all the screws in first, and then I can work my way around so that the gasket and pretty much this mating surface is good. Crisscross action. Put the exhaust on and see if this thing runs any better. Exhaust back on and on choke, so let's see what happens. Okay. Still not very good. digging, and I actually have taken the exhaust off again to remove the diaphragm, because I put the spring and the spring locator on the wrong side of the diaphragm. So yeah, you've got to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it. I never said I was a genius. 402. A little bit of power. Time to bring this out for a spin. That new diaphragm has made a world of difference. I can just turn it over now and it just idles perfectly. And if you're wondering why I have the air filter off, or the air filter housing off, the throttle is here, but the governor is here, and they can't be connected to each other. So I'm going to be messing with this to keep it a wide open throttle, or go beyond where the normal throttle can go. Oh, you hate me so much, don't you? I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I've really come to the conclusion that if I want to have some reliable fun with this machine, that I'm probably going to have to put a Honda clone or an actual Honda engine onto it. The brakes are good, but when they get a bit of age into them, they can be quite problematic. With that, I hope you learned something. I certainly have. Gokart will make a comeback. However, I do have quite a lot more machines in the pipeline at the moment that I want to try and get turning and burning too. But join me in those episodes, but also when you see this go-kart again, I will be putting another engine onto it and seeing how much more of an improvement I can make based on this video. This to me is a semi-success. So I want to make it a complete success by trying to transform this thing once again. So join me in that.